Laura Palmer's nightmares are growing worse. Every night she wakes up in a panic, whispering about Bob, a dark presence that has haunted her since childhood. Her secret diary becomes her only refuge, a place where she documents horrors that no one else must ever know. At school, Laura keeps up the perfect facade of the homecoming queen, but her best friend, Donna Hayward, notices the signs of deterioration. Laura's eyes are constantly dilated, her hands tremble slightly, and she flinches at every unexpected sound. Bobby Briggs pressures Laura to keep dealing cocaine, the business that's been sustaining them financially. She hesitates, expressing a desire to stop, but her chemical dependency and fear of what Bobby might do keep her trapped. Her secret relationship with James Hurley becomes her only real emotional escape, but even with him, Laura can't bring herself to reveal the full extent of what she's going through. At home, the atmosphere is suffocating. Leland Palmer's behavior grows increasingly erratic, swinging between moments of overbearing fatherly affection and sudden inexplicable rage. Sarah Palmer, numbed by medication and plagued by disturbing visions, has become a ghostly presence in her own home. Laura discovers that pages have been torn from her secret diary, pages she remembers hiding well.
There are pages torn out. That is real, Harold.
She entrusts the diary to Harold Smith, an agoraphobic who lives in isolation, pleading with him to keep it safe. As the days go by, Laura's behavior grows increasingly erratic. Her drug use intensifies, and the line between reality and nightmare begins to blur. She spirals further into madness, fully aware that her time is running out. On the eve of her death, Laura meets with James one last time. She tries to warn him, speaking in cryptic terms about him, someone who might try to hurt him.
Even Donna doesn't know me.
Her words are a riddle to James, who sees only a scared and confused girl. She kisses him with desperate finality, knowing it may be their last goodbye. That night, Laura is taken by Jacques Renault to a cabin in the woods, where Renette Pulaski is already being held. What was supposed to be just another night of drugs and sex turns into a nightmare when they realize they've been lured into a trap. The true identity of Bob is finally revealed, in the form of her own father, and in that horrifying moment, Laura Palmer understands that there is no longer any way out. In the early hours of the following morning, a frantic phone call from Pete Martell to the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department shatters the calm of the morning. On the riverbank, wrapped in plastic, the body of a young woman is discovered. Sheriff Harry S. Truman arrives on the scene, and once the plastic is unwrapped, the victim is identified: Laura Palmer, the town's homecoming queen. The news spreads like wildfire. Laura's mother, Sarah, spirals into panic when she realizes her daughter never came home. Her father, Leland, is pulled out of an important business meeting to receive the devastating news. At the high school, Laura's absence is noticed. The announcement of her death over the PA system casts a deafening silence through the halls. Bobby Briggs, Laura's boyfriend, is immediately brought in for questioning. His defiant attitude and lack of an alibi make him the prime suspect. The disturbing nature of the crime draws the attention of the FBI. Special Agent Dale Cooper arrives in Twin Peaks, recording his observations into a tape for his assistant Diane. He meets with Sheriff Truman and quickly takes the lead on the case. At the hospital, they come across Renette Pulaski, one of Laura's classmates, wandering in a state of shock, bearing signs of torture. She's the only known survivor of the attack. During the autopsy, Cooper makes a chilling discovery. A tiny letter R slipped beneath Laura's fingernail. The investigation leads them to Laura's bedroom. Hidden inside, they find a secret diary. The final entry mentions a meeting with someone identified only as Jay. Inside the diary, there's also a safe deposit box key and a small bag of white powder, which Cooper suspects is cocaine. The key leads to a bank vault containing over $10,000 in cash and a magazine ad for an escort service, featuring Ronette Pulaski's photo. The connection between the two girls is darker than anyone had imagined. Cooper and Truman visit the crime scene, an abandoned train car. Inside, they find a mound of dirt, a necklace with half a heart pendant, and a message scrawled in what appears to be blood: "Fire, walk with me." That night, the entire town is under curfew. Donna Hayward, Laura's best friend, sneaks out to meet James Hurley, a biker Laura had been secretly seen. A fight erupts at the local bar, the Roadhouse, involving Bobby, his friend Mike, and James. Amid the chaos, Donna and James flee. In a secluded spot, James tells Donna he was with Laura the night she died. He says she was acting erratically and seemed terrified. He shows Donna the other half of the heart necklace. Fearing the police will pin the murder on him, they bury the necklace in the woods. But on their way back, they're intercepted by the cops. With no alibi and now linked to Laura's necklace, James is arrested arrested on suspicion of murder. While James Hurley spends the night in a jail cell, Agent Cooper starts his day at the Great Northern Hotel, where he meets the enigmatic and alluring Audrey Horne, daughter of the hotel's owner. The autopsy of Laura Palmer reveals she was tortured before she died. The investigation uncovers new clues. At home, waitress Shelley Johnson is threatened by her trucker husband Leo, who shows up wearing a blood-stained shirt. At the station, Cooper questions James, who admits that Laura was using cocaine and was afraid of Bobby. Cooper believes he's innocent and releases him into the custody of his uncle, Ed Hurley. In the neighboring cell, Bobby Briggs and his friend Mike whisper about a $10,000 debt they owe Leo Johnson, money tied to a botched drug deal that Laura had been involved in. Meanwhile, Donna confesses to her mother that she and James have fallen in love, overwhelmed by guilt for betraying Laura's memory. Ed tells Sheriff Truman that he suspects someone spiked his beer at the Roadhouse the night of the fight, pointing the finger at bartender Jacques Renault. The investigation then shifts focus to the Packard sawmill. Cooper questions Josie Packard, widow of the former owner, who reveals that shortly before her death, Laura said something cryptic about understanding how Josie felt after her husband's passing. Unbeknownst to them, the late owner's sister, Catherine Martell, and local tycoon Benjamin Horne are secretly plotting to burn down the mill and seize Josie's land. The day ends with a chilling revelation. Laura's psychiatrist, Dr. Jacoby, listens to an audio tape she recorded for him. On the tape, her frightened voice speaks about being tired of sweet boys like James and mentions a mysterious man, expressing her fear of getting lost in the woods again. The tape is starting to sound more and more senseless. As Laura's tape reveals her inner fears, brothers Ben and Jerry Horne cross the border into Canada, heading to a casino and brothel known as One-Eyed Jack's. Ben is eager to meet the new girl recruited from the perfume counter, the very same place where Ronette Pulaski once worked. Back in Twin Peaks, the romance between Donna and James begins to blossom, though Laura's shadow still looms large over them. The investigation takes a strange turn when Deputy Hawk reports seeing a one-armed man lurking near Ronette's hospital room. Tension escalates as Bobby and Mike meet Leo Johnson in the woods to discuss their debt. The conversation quickly turns into a veiled threat. Leo is armed and furious, making it clear he won't tolerate failure. At the sheriff's station, Agent Cooper employs an unorthodox Tibetan deduction technique as Sheriff Truman reads off a list of suspects whose names start with J or are connected to Laura. Cooper throws rocks at a glass bottle. The bottle remains intact until Truman says, "Leo Johnson." Cooper's stone hits dead on, shattering it. The FBI forensic team arrives, led by the abrasive Albert Rosenfield, who immediately clashes with Sheriff Truman due to his arrogant demeanor. Elsewhere, Leland Palmer's grief spirals into a psychotic breakdown. He dances manically with Laura's portrait before collapsing in tears. That night, Agent Cooper has a surreal dream. He finds himself in a red-curtained room, 25 years older. A dwarf, the man from another place, speaks in cryptic, reversed speech. Laura Palmer is also there. She leans in and whispers a secret in Cooper's ear. The dream reveals a killer named Bob and a chilling warning. The owls are not what they seem. Cooper jolts awake, grabs the phone, and calls Sheriff Truman. With eerie certainty, he says, "I know who killed Laura Palmer." Later, tensions in town come to a head at the morgue, where Dr. Hayward and FBI agent Albert Rosenfield clash. Albert refuses to release Laura's body for the funeral, treating everyone with contempt. The argument turns physical, and Cooper is forced to step in, ordering Albert to deliver his findings by noon. Meanwhile, Maddie Ferguson, Laura's identical cousin, arrives in Twin Peaks and finds her uncle Leland in deep sorrow, dancing with a picture of his daughter. At the funeral, the town's mourning is interrupted by an outburst from Bobby Briggs. He accuses everyone present of hypocrisy, shouting that they all knew Laura was in trouble but did nothing. Chaos erupts when he lunges at James Hurley, and Leland Palmer, in a moment of desperation, throws himself onto his daughter's coffin as it's being lowered, having to be restrained. After the funeral, Albert hands Cooper his findings. Laura was using cocaine, had been tied up with 2 different types of rope, and bore bite marks from an animal on her shoulder. In her stomach, they found a piece of plastic with the letter J on it. That same night, Harry reveals to Cooper the existence of the Bookhouse Boys, a secret society dedicated to fighting an ancient evil that lives in the woods around Twin Peaks. They take Cooper to their hideout, where they interrogate Bernard Renault, Jacques Renault's brother, who was caught transporting cocaine cocaine. Bernard reveals that Jacques will be at the roadhouse that night. What they don't know is that Jacques spots the police activity and calls Leo Johnson, warning him that Bernard's been caught. At the same time, Josie Packard confides in Harry, telling him she fears that Catherine Martell and Benjamin Horne are conspiring against her, just like they did with her late husband Andrew. They search Catherine's safe for a second accounting book but find nothing, and are mocked by her. The night ends with a heartbroken Leland Palmer at the roadhouse begging someone, anyone, to dance with him. But this is only the beginning of the madness, and it might just get worse. Later on, Sarah Palmer tells Cooper about a vision she had, a man with long, dirty hair named Bob, standing at the foot of Laura's bed. She also describes seeing a gloved hand digging up Laura's broken heart necklace, an intimate detail only someone who had hidden it would know. The investigation deepens when Dr. Jacoby confesses to Cooper that Laura had dark secrets, and that on the night she was murdered, he followed a man driving a red Corvette, Leo Johnson's car. Truman tracks down the one-armed man from Cooper's dream, a shoe salesman named Philip Gerard. However, Gerard denies knowing the man in the composite sketch of Bob and says that the tattoo on his amputated arm used to read Mom. Meanwhile, Audrey Horne recruits Donna Hayward to help her launch their own investigation, planning to go undercover at her father's department store perfume counter to learn more about what Laura and Renette were involved in. Things get even more complicated when Bobby Briggs finds one of Leo's shirts, stained with blood, at Shelley's house. He takes it, planning to use the evidence to frame Leo and get him out of their lives for good, and teaches Shelley how to use a gun to protect herself. Back at the sheriff's station, Cooper receives a fax from his supervisor. The plastic fragment found in Laura's stomach is part of a poker chip from One-Eyed Jack's, and the marks on her shoulder were made by a bird. Putting the pieces together, Cooper deduces that the bird belongs to Jacques Renault. They raid Jacques' apartment, but he manages to escape. Inside, they find one of Leo's blood-stained shirts, confirming a connection between the two men. Meanwhile, Benjamin Horne meets secretly with Leo Johnson, hiring him to burn down the Packard mill, and revealing that he was also behind Bernard Renault's death. The night ends with Josie receiving a mysterious phone call, deepening the mystery that surrounds her. What was said to her remains unknown. As the web of secrets tightens, the Great Northern Hotel becomes the epicenter of new and bizarre happenings. A group of Icelandic investors arrives, and Benjamin Horne plans a trip to One-Eyed Jack's to seal the deal. The investigation gains traction when the team discovers that the blood on Leo's shirt belongs to Jacques Renault. They also find a personal ad placed by Laura in a magazine using the same P.O. box as Renette. The photo in the ad shows red curtains, identical to those in Cooper's dream. Audrey manages to infiltrate the perfume counter at her father's department store, blackmailing the manager to launch her own secret investigation. Meanwhile, Hank Jennings is released from prison and returns to the Double R diner, his threatening presence looming over Norma. In a therapy session with Dr. Jacoby, Bobby reveals Laura's darker side. She felt corrupted, believed there was no goodness left in the world, and took pleasure in manipulating and destroying the people around her, even coercing him into selling drugs for her. Following a lead, Cooper's team visits the log lady, who recounts what her log saw the night of the murder: 2 girls and 2 men laughing in the woods, followed by the passing of a 3rd man, and later, a terrible scream. Her description leads them to Jacques Renault's cabin. Inside, they find Waldo, the mynah bird, a camera with a roll of film, more blood, and another poker chip from One-Eyed Jack's. At the same time, Maddie calls Donna, saying she found a cassette tape hidden in Laura's room. The night erupts in violence across town. Hank confronts Leo, revealing that Leo has been working for him. Not long after, Leo returns home and violently attacks Shelley. Still at the Great Northern Hotel, Agent Cooper draws a clear line with young Audrey Horne. He will be her friend, nothing more. Meanwhile, at the sheriff's station, the team discovers a crucial witness: Waldo, Jacques Renault's pet bird, found starving and dehydrated in Jacques' cabin. The bird has the uncanny ability to mimic human speech. Forensics confirms that Waldo was present on the night of the crime, alongside Laura, Renette, and Leo Johnson. Terrified, Shelley Johnson confesses to Bobby Briggs that she shot her husband Leo after he attacked her. Bobby promises to protect her and take care of the situation. At the same time, Donna, Maddie, and James listen to one of Laura's tapes recorded for Dr. Jacoby and discover that the tape from the night of her death is missing. They come up with a plan to retrieve it. Maddie will impersonate Laura and call Jacoby, luring him away from his office so James can sneak in and search for the missing recording. At the perfume counter of Horne's department store, Audrey spies on a manager named Battis, recruiting a new girl to work at a mysterious club. Cleverly, Audrey manages manages to get a contact number for the place, a crucial step in her own investigation. Tensions rise in town with the return of Hank Jennings. Newly released from prison, he tries to reconnect with his wife Norma, but his return immediately causes friction with Sheriff Truman. Fearing for her life, Josie Packard reveals to Harry that she has photographic evidence of an affair between Catherine Martell and Ben Horn. She believes the two are conspiring to burn down the mill and get rid of her. Harry, in turn, informs Cooper that they'll need help from the Bookhouse Boys for the next stage of the investigation, a covert operation at One-Eyed Jack's, which lies outside their jurisdiction. The plan to retrieve Jacoby's tape goes into motion. Maddie calls the psychiatrist, imitating Laura's voice, and convinces him to meet her at the park. Simultaneously, back at the station, Waldo the bird begins to speak, repeating Laura's name. But before it can reveal anything more, a shot fired through the window silences the witness forever. The only clue it manages to leave behind are the haunting words, "Leo, no." Cooper and Big Ed, posing as high-rolling gamblers, infiltrate One-Eyed Jack's. Cooper approaches Jacques Renault, who's working as a blackjack dealer. Using a casino chip found in Laura's stomach, Cooper pretends to be one of Leo Johnson's business associates and convinces Jacques he's the money behind their smuggling operation. He sets up a fake meeting with Jacques across the border, setting a trap to arrest him on U.S. soil. Meanwhile, James sneaks into Dr. Jacoby's empty office, ready to uncover Laura Palmer's final tape. While James and Donna search through the office, the trap set for Jacques Renault is sprung. Sheriff Truman and his men intercept him at the border. During the arrest, Jacques manages to grab Hawk's gun, but is shot by Andy. At the hospital, gravely wounded, Jacques confesses that he and Leo were with Laura and Renette at the cabin. He describes a wild and violent night where Laura was tied up, and Leo, annoyed by the bird Waldo, shoved a poker chip into her mouth, saying, "Bite the bait, baby." Back at the office, James finds a broken heart necklace hidden inside a hollowed-out coconut. At that moment, Dr. Jacoby returns, but is brutally attacked by an unknown assailant and suffers a heart attack. James and Donna flee with the necklace and Laura's last audio tape. Listening to the recording, they realize Laura wasn't talking about James when she mentioned her secret meeting that night, but rather about a mystery man with a red Corvette who could light her fire. The night descends into chaos. A furious Leo Johnson finds Shelley's gun and, convinced she's been cheating on him with Bobby, heads to the Packard sawmill to kill her. At the same time, Hank Jennings confronts Josie Packard, revealing that he went to prison to cover up a far greater crime she committed, the murder of her husband Andrew. Now, he demands more money and control. Tricked by Pete, Catherine Martell also goes to the mill, searching for a second ledger that could incriminate her. At One-Eyed Jack's, Audrey Horne begins her first shift as the new girl, unaware that her father, Ben Horne, is on his way to meet her. The situation builds to a fiery climax. Leo ties up Shelley inside the mill and sets it ablaze, trapping her along with Catherine. Outside, Pete Martell runs into the flames, trying to save Catherine. Elsewhere, Hank Jennings ambushes Leo Johnson at his home, leaving him severely wounded in a hail of gunfire. And at the Great Northern Hotel, a masked gunman storms Agent Cooper's room and fires 3 point-blank shots. Shot and bleeding on the floor of his hotel room, Agent Cooper has a vision. A giant appears and offers 3 cryptic clues. There's a man in a smiling bag, the owls are not what they seem, and without chemicals, he points. The giant also reveals there's a clue in Leo's house, then takes Cooper's ring, promising to return it once the prophecies come true. The next morning, the town wakes up to the aftermath of a chaotic night. Cooper is taken to the hospital, where he learns he survived thanks to his bulletproof vest. Jacques Renault has been murdered in his hospital bed. Leo Johnson is in a coma. The sawmill has burned down. Catherine Martell and Josie Packard are missing, and Nadine Hurley is in a coma after a suicide attempt. The most bizarre change is in Leland Palmer. His hair has turned completely white overnight, and he exhibits a disturbingly manic joy. Despite his injuries, Cooper leads the investigation at Leo's house, where he finds a pair of brand new boots with cocaine hidden in the heel, and Leo's gas-soaked jacket, directly linking him to the sawmill fire. Following a mysterious lead, lead. Donna Hayward decides to take over Laura's old Meals on Wheels route. At the hospital, Cooper interviews Dr. Jacoby, who recalls smelling burned engine oil near Jacques' room on the night of the murder. The investigation deepens when Cooper recovers the half-heart necklace Laura had given James. James mentions a haunting poem Laura used to recite about a man named Bob. With forensic specialist Albert Rosenfield back in town, the team assembles all the evidence. They conclude that neither Leo nor Jacques acted alone. There was a third man in the cabin, the same man who took Laura and Renette to the train car. This man murdered Laura and left a note written in her own blood. Meanwhile, Hank Jennings informs Ben Horn that Catherine is presumed dead, clearing the way for the Ghostwood project. Audrey Horn finds herself trapped at One-Eyed Jack's, under the control of the Madame Blackie. The night ends with Cooper alone in his hotel room, experiencing another vision. The giant reappears, followed by a terrifying image of Bob, the demonic figure from Laura's nightmares, crouched at the foot of a bed, grinning malevolently. The supernatural force behind the murder is finally revealed to Cooper. Now, the question remains, how will Cooper act in the face of these revelations? At the FBI, Agent Albert Rosenfield delivers his report to Cooper. Ronette Pulaski has woken from her coma, but she's in a state of shock and unable to speak. The autopsy of Jacques Renault reveals he was suffocated with a pillow in the hospital, and the fire at the sawmill was an act of arson. But the most alarming news is that Cooper's former partner, the dangerous Wyndham Earl, has escaped from a psychiatric facility. Meanwhile, Donna Hayward takes over Laura Palmer's old meal delivery route. On her first stop, an enigmatic elderly woman named Mistress Tremont advises her to visit a neighbor, Harold Smith, a friend of Laura's. Back at the hospital, Cooper shows Renette police sketches of Leo Johnson and Bob. Upon seeing Bob's face, Renette suffers a traumatic seizure, screaming the word train, confirming his presence on the night of the murder. In his office, Ben and Jerry Horn burn evidence and plot to use the mill fire as part of an insurance scam. Their conversation is interrupted by Leland Palmer, who recognizes Bob's face as that of a man who lived near his family's summer home at Pearl Lakes when he was a child, offering Cooper a new and unexpected lead. At One-Eyed Jack's, Audrey Horn interrogates Emery Battis, the manager of the perfume counter. Under threat, he confesses that he recruited girls, Laura and Renette among them, for the brothel, which is secretly owned by none other than Audrey's father, Ben Horn. Meanwhile, Bobby Briggs convinces Shelley Johnson to bring the comatose Leo home, planning to live off his disability checks. The growing tension in the love triangle between Donna, James, and Maddie erupts after they sing a song together, prompting a jealous Donna to storm out. The night brings two dark revelations. Major Briggs delivers Cooper a transmission intercepted from deep space monitors containing the phrase, "The owls are not what they seem," and repeated mentions of Cooper's name. Shortly after, Audrey calls Cooper, desperate for help, but is captured by her boss, Blackie, before she can reveal her location. But a new lead surfaces at the hospital. Someone broke into Ronette Pulaski's room during the night, leaving her terrified and carving the letters B, T, and R under her fingernails. Cooper immediately connects the act to his dream with the giant and the cryptic clues he's received. Following the advice she was given, Donna visits the reclusive Harold Smith, an agoraphobic horticulturist who turns out to be a secret confidant of Laura's. Leland Palmer provides more details about the man in the police sketch, identifying him as Robertson, a neighbor from his childhood in Pearl Lakes, prompting Deputy Hawk to launch an investigation in the area. At One-Eyed Jack's, Audrey's fate falls into the hands of John Renault, the vengeful brother of Jacques. John plans to demand ransom for her and use her as bait to get revenge on Cooper. A crucial clue emerges when Philip Gerard, the one-armed shoe salesman, suffers a bizarre episode at the sheriff's station. Cooper realizes Gerard is the key to the giant's third clue. Without chemicals, he points. Elsewhere, Nadine Hurley awakens from her coma with amnesia, believing she's a teenager again. Under hypnosis, Dr. Jacoby recalls witnessing Jacques Renault's murder, but can't make out the killer's face. The love triangle between James, Maddie, and Donna falls apart when Donna sees the two kissing. Heartbroken, she runs off to Harold Smith's home, where he makes a shocking revelation. He has Laura Palmer's secret diary, and Donna's curiosity is instantly piqued. While Donna tries to uncover Laura's secrets, the law catches up with a new suspect. Leland Palmer confesses to the murder of Jacques Renault and is taken into custody. Amid the town's shock, Deputy Andy Brennan accidentally provides a crucial clue. He's wearing the same rare model of boots found in Leo's cabin, boots purchased directly from Philip Gerard. Gerard, the one-armed man. The hunt for Gerard becomes the top priority. Jean Renault confronts Ben Horn, revealing that he's holding Audrey hostage. His demands are clear: a cash ransom, a business partnership at One-Eyed Jack's, and Agent Cooper as the one to deliver the money. Cornered, Ben lies to Cooper, painting the kidnapping as a random act and pleading for his help. Cooper agrees, but secretly begins crafting a rescue plan of his own. Josie Packard returns to Twin Peaks, accompanied by a mysterious cousin from Hong Kong, who immediately threatens Hank Jennings. Her reunion with Sheriff Truman is tense and marked by distrust. Meanwhile, Donna grows closer to Harold Smith, who reads her dark passages from Laura's secret diary. Convinced the diary holds the key to the murder, Donna and Maddie plot to steal it. The town is abuzz with news of the arrival of M.T. Wentz, a powerful and anonymous restaurant critic. Elsewhere, Cooper enlists the help of the Bookhouse Boys for a dangerous, off-the-books mission to infiltrate One-Eyed Jack's and rescue Audrey. Later, Agent Cooper awakens with an epiphany. The giant's message from his dream finally becomes clear when he finds a note from Audrey. She went up north and believes a man named Jack might hold the answers. At the sheriff's office, Cooper announces that he knows where to find her. Meanwhile, Bobby and Shelley receive a new piece of equipment to help care for Leo, a clunky contraption that looks more like a trap than a medical device. Their financial situation is dire, and tensions rise as Bobby has to leave for court. At a preliminary hearing, Leland Palmer, still deep in mourning, is released on bail for the murder of Jacques Renault. Meanwhile, in a different courtroom, a judge declares Leo Johnson mentally unfit to stand trial, ordering that he be sent back home. The news weighs heavily on Shelley, who will now have to take care of him full-time. Elsewhere, Donna meets again with Harold Smith, the man in possession of Laura Palmer's secret diary. She proposes a deal. She'll share personal stories from her own life in exchange for a chance to read the diary. At the Great Northern, Ben Horn receives a call from Audrey's kidnappers. The negotiator is Jean Renault, brother of Jacques and Bernard. He demands $5 million to be delivered at an abandoned amusement park near the border. Ben agrees, but secretly instructs his henchmen to follow the drop, kill Cooper after the exchange, and bring back both Audrey and the money. What Ben doesn't know is that Jean Renault has already killed Blackie and plans to use Audrey as bait to eliminate Cooper, the man who captured his brother. The plan to retrieve Laura's diary is set in motion. Donna will distract Harold in his orchid greenhouse, while Maddie sneaks into the apartment to steal the diary. At the same time, Cooper and Sheriff Truman prepare to raid One-Eyed Jack's and rescue Audrey. It becomes a race against time. Cooper finds Audrey in a room, drugged and barely conscious. One of Renault's men attacks, but Truman arrives just in time, allowing them to escape with Audrey. Jean Renault, however, manages to slip away. Meanwhile, Harold discovers Donna and Maddie's betrayal. In a fit of rage, he corners them with a garden rake, but they manage to escape with James's help, who arrives just in time. At the hospital, Audrey awakens under Cooper's care. She was drugged with an almost lethal dose of heroin. When her father, Ben Horn, arrives pretending to be concerned, Audrey confronts him with a piercing look that makes it clear she knows his secrets. Cooper and Truman identify Jean Renault as Blackie's killer and the mastermind behind the kidnapping. Racked with guilt for putting Audrey in harm's way, Cooper is consoled by Truman, who reminds him he saved her. Shelley and Bobby's situation worsens as Leo returns home. The insurance payout is laughable, and they're now trapped in a desperate financial bind. In a moment of dark comedy, they throw a twisted welcome home party for the catatonic Leo, mocking his past abuses, until he suddenly lets out a groan, a chilling sign of awareness. Meanwhile, Gordon Cole, Cooper's regional FBI chief and supervisor, arrives in town. Nearly deaf, Cole communicates by shouting and brings crucial lab reports: the Cuna coat fibers found near Cooper's room, an unidentified drug in the one-armed man's syringe, and pages from Laura Palmer's diary recovered near the crime scene. Cole's arrival coincides with the capture of Philip Gerard, the one-armed shoe salesman. Josie's storyline deepens when Jonathan, an envoy from her former business partner Thomas Eckhart, confronts her. He gives her an ultimatum: leave Twin Peaks with him that night, or Sheriff Truman dies. Elsewhere, Maddie says goodbye to James, telling him she's going back home, and that he and Donna belong together. Josie, in turn, confronts Ben Horn, demanding the money he owes her. The conversation devolves into a tense standoff, with both holding evidence that could destroy the other. Ben partially gives in, handing her a check from a Tokyo bank as a gesture of good faith. Gordon Cole then reveals the real reason for his visit: an anonymous letter sent to the FBI containing a chess move. It's a message from Wyndham Earle, Cooper's former partner, a brilliant and dangerous man who is now his mortal enemy. The night ends on a surreal note at the Great Northern Hotel, where Leland Palmer, apparently recovered, performs a manic rendition of Getting to Know You for Ben and his mysterious Japanese investor. The climax of the day comes at the sheriff's station. During the interrogation of Philip Gerard, the one-armed man man writhes in pain until another personality emerges.
There is no need for medicine.
A spirit named Mike. He reveals he once partnered with Bob, a malevolent entity that feeds on fear and pleasure. But Mike now seeks to stop Bob, who's inhabited a human host for 40 years, in a place he describes as a large house made of wood surrounded by trees with many rooms. Cooper instantly understands: the Great Northern Hotel. Following Mike's lead, the police prepare to investigate everyone at the Great Northern Hotel. Hawk is sent to Harold Smith's apartment, where he makes a tragic discovery. Harold has hanged himself, leaving behind Laura Palmer's secret diary. Meanwhile, at the Palmer house, Maddie announces she's leaving, to the strange and unsettling delight of both Leland and Sarah. The tension in the house is almost unbearable. Elsewhere, Bobby and Shelley, desperate for money, search through a pair of Leo's old boots after he mutters, "New shoes." Hidden in the heel, they find a microcassette. At the same time, Audrey confronts her father, Ben Horn. He admits to having slept with Laura but swears he loved her and didn't kill her. His confession, combined with a passage from Laura's diary implicating him, gives Cooper enough evidence to act. He obtains a warrant and arrests Benjamin Horn for the murder of Laura Palmer, right in the middle of a business meeting. During the arrest, the mysterious Japanese investor, Mr. Tojimura, reveals herself. It's Catherine Martell in disguise. That night at the Roadhouse, the log lady warns Cooper there are owls at the Roadhouse. Inside, Cooper has a vision of the giant, who tells him it is happening again. Back at the Palmer house, Maddie, alone, smells burnt motor oil and has a terrifying vision of Bob crawling across the floor. Suddenly, Leland appears. His eyes change and Bob's sinister smile overtakes his face. He chases Maddie through the house in a sequence of pure horror, savagely beating her. In her final moments, Maddie sees Bob, the true killer, before Leland murders her, reenacting the death of his own daughter. The search for Laura Palmer's killer comes to an end, revealing an evil that had been hiding in plain sight all along. Leland Palmer, feigning ignorance, tells Donna and James that Maddie has already left town. His cheerful demeanor stands in stark contrast to their disappointment. At the sheriff's station, Ben Horn is confronted by his bumbling brother and attorney, Jerry, who offers little hope of release. Cooper and Truman question the one-armed man, Philip Gerard, but he's weak and incoherent without his medication. Leland grows increasingly bizarre. He dances and sings through the Great Northern, and later remembers a detail to incriminate Ben, claiming he overheard him discussing a diary on the night Laura was murdered. Meanwhile, Bobby Briggs gets his hands on a cassette tape, proving that Ben Horn ordered Leo Johnson to burn down the Packard sawmill. Bobby plans to use it for his own advantage. At the Double R Diner, Norma's estranged mother, Vivian, arrives with her new husband, Ernie Niles. Hank recognizes Ernie as an old prison acquaintance and immediately sees an opportunity for blackmail. The balance of power in Twin Peaks shifts once again when Pete Martell delivers a message to Ben in his cell. A recording from Catherine Martell, very much alive. She's got Ben right where she wants him, demanding he sign over his properties in exchange for the alibi that could clear his name. Audrey Horn visits Cooper in his hotel room, confessing her feelings for him. He gently turns her down, revealing a tragic story from his past involving a witness under his protection who was murdered. Their conversation is interrupted by an urgent call from Sheriff Truman. Maddie Ferguson's body has been found. The discovery of Maddie's body sends a new wave of horror through Twin Peaks. Agent Albert Rosenfield confirms that she was murdered by the same person who killed Laura, leaving a new clue beneath her fingernail, the letter O. Cooper asks for 24 hours to solve the case. The investigation takes a decisive turn when Donna receives a mysterious final page from Laura's secret diary. She describes a dream identical to one Agent Cooper had, revealing that the killer, Bob, is afraid of a man named Mike. This revelation leads Cooper to the one-armed man who, as Mike, confirms that the giant from Cooper's visions is real and holds the key to solving the mystery. The clues begin to align. White fox fur found in Ben Horn's office matches fibers found on Maddie's body, and the letters under the victim's nails are slowly spelling out a name. As Cooper gets closer to the truth, Catherine, disguised as a Japanese businessman, masterfully tricks Ben into signing over his entire empire. Donna's investigation leads her to Leland's house, where he becomes disturbingly unstable upon learning about the secret diary. He traps her, but Sheriff Truman arrives just in time to rescue her. Cooper gathers all the key suspects at the Roadhouse. A vision of the giant and an enigmatic message from a waiter trigger a memory in Leland. Back at the station, the entity possessing him, Bob, finally reveals himself.
Leland,
You've been a good vehicle.
Confessing in a chilling voice to the murders of both Laura and Maddie. In a fit of rage, Bob causes Leland to fatally injure himself against the jail cell door. As he lies dying, the real Leland resurfaces, confessing in anguish how Bob had possessed him since childhood and forced him to murder his own daughter. Cooper gently guides him to a peaceful death, but one disturbing question remains. With Leland dead, where is Bob now? With the revelations about Bob and Leland Palmer laid to rest, a somber calm settles over Twin Peaks, but evil has left deep scars. At the funeral reception, the town struggles to come to terms with the aftermath. Donna mourns James's sudden departure, while Nadine, empowered by her amnesia and newfound superhuman strength, earns a spot on the high school cheerleading squad. Catherine Martell makes a dramatic public return, recounting her harrowing survival story to a stunned Sheriff Truman. Just as Agent Cooper prepares to leave town, his apparent victory is abruptly cut short. FBI Internal Affairs Agent Roger Hardy arrives and suspends him for conducting an unauthorized operation at One-Eyed Jack's, stripping him of his badge and gun. Meanwhile, other forces are set into motion. Bobby Briggs fails in his attempt to blackmail Ben Horne, but finds an unlikely ally in Audrey. At One-Eyed Jack's, Hank and John Renault coerce Ernie Niles into aiding their criminal schemes. Shelley Johnson is terrified when Leo, still catatonic, suddenly shows signs of movement. Norma finally confronts her hypercritical mother, who reveals herself as the food critic behind the harsh diner review, and kicks her out of her life. The day ends with a terrified Josie Packard returning to Harry, beaten and desperate for help. While under suspension, Cooper goes on one last fishing trip with Major Briggs, who cryptically mentions a mysterious White Lodge. When Cooper steps away for a moment, a blinding flash of light illuminates the forest. And Major Briggs vanishes without a trace. The Major's wife, Betty, confirms he had been involved in classified work related to the forest. Cooper suspects his disappearance is connected to a powerful force that resides within the area. At the sheriff's station, Cooper's superior, Gordon Cole, calls to inform him that the Drug Enforcement Administration is sending one of its top agents, Dennis Bryson, to investigate the charges against him. Suspended from the FBI, Cooper faces a disciplinary hearing, but refuses to mount a traditional defense. Instead, he speaks of seeing the world through love and looking beyond fear, leaving the Bureau agents baffled. Meanwhile, James Marshall, running from his problems, stops at a roadside bar and meets the mysterious Evelyn Marsh. Her luxury car has broken down, and she hires him to fix it, offering him a place to stay. Back in Twin Peaks, Deputy Hawk shares with Cooper a local legend about two mystical realms: the White Lodge, a domain of pure spirits, and its dark counterpart, the Black Lodge, where every soul must face their own dweller on the threshold. According to the legend, entering the Black Lodge without perfect courage can obliterate the soul. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of the DEA agent, Dennis Bryson, who surprises everyone by now identifying as Denise. In a shocking twist, Josie Packard confesses the truth to Sheriff Truman. She once worked for a dangerous man in Hong Kong named Thomas Eckhart, who treated her as his possession. She reveals that Eckhart was responsible for Andrew Packard's death and now wants her back, threatening to kill Truman if she disobeys. Elsewhere, John Renault confronts Ben Horne, revealing that he has taken control of One-Eyed Jack's, leaving Ben powerless and on the brink of collapse. Cooper receives a cassette tape from his former partner, the dangerous and unhinged Wyndham Earl, challenging him to a deadly game of chess, warning that the end game will be the death of the king. The night closes at Dougie Milford wedding, where Catherine Martell unveils her newfound power by forcing Josie to work as her maid. In a hidden room, Catherine meets with her co-conspirator, revealing that her brother, Andrew Packard, is alive, and together they are plotting to lure Thomas Eckhart into a trap. While Catherine and her secretly alive brother Andrew plotted their revenge, another powerful figure in Twin Peaks was completely unraveling. Ben Horne, now lost in a delusion, believes himself to be a general in the American Civil War. Caught up in his fantasy, he hires Bobby Briggs to spy on Hank Jennings. Bobby's investigation quickly pays off. He captures photos of Hank meeting with John Renault and other criminals at an abandoned property known as Dead Dog Farm. Cooper is also investigating the same location and discovers traces of cocaine, linking the site to the drug trafficking operation that led to his own framing. Major Briggs' situation grows more mysterious when Colonel Riley, from the U.S. Air Force, reveals that the space transmissions the Major intercepted didn't come from outer space, but from the woods surrounding Twin Peaks. Shortly after, Major Briggs reappears at home, 2 days after his disappearance, with no memory of what happened, only a haunting image, a giant owl. Meanwhile, tension builds in James's storyline. Evelyn's brother, Malcolm, reveals that her husband Jeffrey is violently abusive. James overhears a terrible fight and feels compelled to help Evelyn, who begs him to stay. Back in Twin Peaks, Ed and Norma finally decide to be together. Audrey Horne, after seeing the photos Bobby took, brings them to Cooper, providing the proof he needed. With this evidence, Cooper and Denise plan an operation to arrest John Renault and his crew, using informant Ernie Niles to set up a meeting at Dead Dog Farm. Once again, our attention turns to the mysterious return of Major Briggs, prompting an immediate interrogation. He describes seeing the image of a giant owl and reveals 3 triangular scars behind his ear. But before he can share more about the White Lodge, the Air Force takes him into custody. Elsewhere, Shelley Johnson is left behind by Bobby, who abandons her to pursue his new career with Ben Horne, leaving her alone to care for a still catatonic Leo Johnson. The police operation at Dead Dog Farm is set in motion. Denise, disguised as a drug buyer, and a terrified Ernie Niles meet with John Renault. The plan goes awry when Ernie's wire malfunctions. Cooper offers himself in exchange for the others, leading to a tense standoff as the police surround the house. Renault, blaming Cooper for bringing this nightmare to Twin Peaks, debates whether or not to kill him. The situation is resolved unexpectedly when Denise, in a second disguise as a food delivery person, takes Renault by surprise. In the chaos, he is killed. Meanwhile, Ben Horne spirals deeper into a Civil War delusion. Catherine Martell pays him a visit, and in a bizarre twist, their long-standing animosity gives way to mutual attraction, and the two finally give in to it. Ed and Norma say goodbye, making plans for a future together, unaware that Nadine had just been casually dumped by Mike Nelson. Back home, Ed is caught off guard when Nadine sees him with packed bags. Confused and furious, she attacks him and leaves him unconscious. The night of terror continues as Shelley, home alone, is attacked by Leo, who suddenly snaps out of his catatonic state, wielding an axe. Back at the sheriff's station, the team deals with the aftermath of an explosion at the power station. Amid the chaos, Cooper discovers Wyndham Earle's next move. A body has been left in the sheriff's office, positioned like a piece on a giant chessboard, signaling that the deadly game has only just begun. Meanwhile, Leo Johnson snaps out of his catatonic state and attacks Shelley. Bobby Briggs arrives just in time to defend her, and after a brutal fight, Leo flees into the woods, wounded. Far from there, James Hurley finishes repairing Evelyn Marsh's car, but the tension between him and her husband Jeffrey is palpable. Evelyn begs James not to leave her alone. Shortly after, Jeffrey dies in a car accident while test driving the vehicle. Under pressure from unfolding events, Cooper confides in Truman, revealing the truth about his past. Wyndham Earle was once his mentor at the FBI, but lost his mind after the murder of his wife Caroline, a woman Cooper had an affair with. Cooper now suspects that Earle himself was the killer, and that the chess game is a personal act of revenge. At the Great Northern, Ben Horne remains lost in a Civil War fantasy, while Major Briggs returns from his mysterious disappearance, warning of the White Lodge and dark forces, before vanishing once more into the shadows. The biggest twist unfolds at the Packard estate. Andrew Packard, Catherine's brother, faked his own death to escape his former business partner, Thomas Eckhart, the very man Josie once worked for. And now, Eckhart has just arrived in Twin Peaks. Donna tries to warn James, but Evelyn deceives her. When James confronts Evelyn about the accident, she reveals that everything was a setup to frame him for Jeffrey's death. Donna arrives at the last second, and the two escape together. Deep in the woods, a wounded Leo Johnson finds shelter with a mysterious stranger, Wyndham Earle. James and Donna remain on the run as police intensify the investigation into Jeffrey Marsh's death. Evelyn and her accomplice, Malcolm, deceive the authorities, portraying James as a dangerous fugitive. Deep in the woods, Wyndham Earle exerts psychological control over a wounded Leo Johnson, breaking him down to become a loyal pawn in his twisted game. Agent Albert Rosenfield returns to Twin Peaks with disturbing new leads. Earle has been mailing fragments of Caroline's wedding dress to police stations across the country. Forensic analysis of the body confirms a chilling truth: Earle's deadly chess game is very real. The long-standing love triangle between Ed, Norma, and Nadine takes an unexpected turn. Nadine, now infatuated with Mike Nelson, gives Ed and Norma her blessing, finally allowing the couple to be together. At the Great Northern Hotel, Audrey and Dr. Jacoby stage Ben Horne's symbolic surrender, bringing him out of his Civil War delusion. Ben regains his clarity, but with a new mission: to embrace environmental activism in order to thwart Catherine Martell's destructive plans. Josie's situation grows increasingly dire. Cooper confronts her about the murder in Seattle, just as Thomas Eckhart Eckhart reaches out, and Catherine manipulates her into facing her former boss. Meanwhile, a desperate James returns to confront Evelyn. The confrontation escalates when Malcolm intervenes, attempting to coerce Evelyn into killing James. In a sudden twist, Evelyn turns the gun on Malcolm, shooting him and fabricating a story of self-defense, clearing James of all charges. The night closes with a chilling message. Wyndham Earl sends Cooper an audio tape, mocking him with haunting recollections of Caroline and demanding his next move in their fatal chess game. One thing is clear, every move from here on out will come with deadly consequences. Earl's ultimatum forces Cooper to act. He enlists local chess master Pete Martell to help him craft a defensive move, a desperate attempt to stall the game and prevent more deaths. Meanwhile, the walls are closing in on Josie. Andrew Packard reveals himself to her, confirming Catherine's betrayal. At the same time, Albert presents conclusive evidence linking Josie to both the attempt on Cooper's life and the murder in Seattle. Cornered on all sides, Josie agrees to meet Thomas Eckhart at the Great Northern. New paths begin to emerge for other residents. Audrey meets the mysterious billionaire John Justice Wheeler. Ed finally proposes to Norma, and James Hurley, now cleared of all charges, says goodbye to Donna and leaves Twin Peaks behind. At the Roadhouse, Audrey, Shelley, and Donna realize they've each received the same cryptic note containing a poem. They come to understand they're being watched by the same person. The confrontation between Josie and Eckhart ends in tragedy. She shoots and kills him. When Truman and Cooper arrive, Josie collapses and dies suddenly, her body weighing almost nothing. For a moment, Cooper has a terrifying vision. Bob's face hovers above Josie's lifeless body before vanishing, leaving Truman devastated and Cooper facing a darkness far deeper than he imagined. A bit further away, at the Double R Diner, Norma introduces her younger sister Annie, who has just left a convent and is trying to readjust to the real world. Meanwhile, in the woods, Wyndham Earl discovers that Agent Cooper isn't playing chess alone. Realizing that Cooper is getting help in order to force a stalemate, Earl becomes enraged by the breach of rules and vows revenge. Elsewhere, Audrey Horne and businessman John Justice Wheeler go on a picnic, and the bond between them deepens. At the Great Northern Hotel, Thomas Eckhart's assistant, Jones, delivers a mysterious puzzle box to Catherine Martell, one final gift from her late employer. At the same time, Wyndham Earl, disguised as an old college friend, pays a visit to Donna Hayward. He manipulates her to extract information and sows a seed of doubt that takes root when Dr. Hayward reveals that the real friend Earl is impersonating drowned years ago. The investigation into the strange symbols takes a major turn when Major Briggs and the log lady meet at the sheriff's station. They reveal identical markings, one on Briggs's neck and the other on the log lady's leg, both of which appeared after an encounter with a blinding light in the woods. Their shared experience points to a deeper mystery. Overwhelmed with grief, Sheriff Truman suffers a violent breakdown at the bookhouse. Cooper is able to disarm and calm him, pulling him back from the edge. In an effort to lift the town's spirits, Ben Horne organizes a fashion show as part of his Save Ghostwood campaign. The event ends in chaos when the Pine Weasel, the campaign's mascot, attacks MC Dick Tremaine and escapes into the crowd. Amid the confusion, Wheeler and Audrey grow even closer, finding a moment of peace in the middle of the turmoil. As the town begins to recover from the chaos, Sheriff Truman is attacked at home by Jones, Eckhart's assistant, who tries to kill him. He survives the assassination attempt, but the mystery surrounding Josie's death only deepens. The next morning, Audrey and Wheeler solidify their bond with a promise to meet again. The calm is soon broken by the arrival of Gordon Cole, who brings with him Wyndham Earl's classified dossier. The file contains a shocking revelation. Earl was once part of Project Blue Book, the same Air Force investigation into UFOs that Major Briggs was involved in. With Earl now considered a federal threat, Gordon officially reinstates Cooper into the FBI and hands him a new weapon. Hidden away in his cabin, Earl unveils his latest scheme. He lays 3 playing cards on the table: the Queens of Hearts, Diamonds, and Spades, each bearing the faces of Donna, Audrey, and Shelley. He's chosen them as his new pieces in the game, potential targets tied to the Miss Twin Peaks pageant. His goal, to lure Cooper into a deadly trap. Growing suspicious, Donna catches her mother, Eileen, in a tense, secretive conversation with Ben Horne, hinting at a hidden past between the two. At the Double R Diner, Gordon Cole experiences a small miracle. Despite his severe hearing loss, he can hear Shelley Johnson's voice with perfect clarity. Meanwhile, Cooper and Annie grow closer, sharing stories and jokes as a mutual attraction begins to blossom. The investigation leads Cooper, Truman, Hawk, and Andy to Owl Cave. Inside, they discover a symbol connecting the tattoos of Major Briggs and the log lady. When Andy accidentally strikes a hidden mechanism in the cave wall with his pickaxe, a section of rock slides open, revealing a much larger petroglyph. The image is a map. a key to the mystery. Watching from a distance, Wyndham Earl sees a drawing of the symbol and smiles. He knows exactly what it means. Back at the Owl Cave, the team discovers Wyndham Earl's footprints, confirming he was there before them. Cooper realizes that the seemingly unrelated events, Leo Johnson's disappearance, Earl's presence, and the cave's mystery, are all connected. He calls in Major Briggs, who recognizes the petroglyph from his dreams and agrees to access the classified Blue Book Project files. The analysis of the evidence also reveals that Leo Johnson is being forced to assist Earl. In his cabin, Earl explains his mission to a young man he has kidnapped. He speaks of two places of power, the White Lodge, a realm of pure goodness, and its opposite, the Black Lodge, a place of dark, boundless power. Earl declares his intent to find the Black Lodge and, to demonstrate his cruelty, kills his captive with an arrow. The Miss Twin Peaks contest becomes the town's new obsession. Bobby encourages Shelley to enter, while Lana seduces the mayor to secure her victory. Donna also signs up, turning the event into a stage for the town's ambitions and conflicts. Meanwhile, Cooper and Annie go out to study nature, where they share vulnerabilities about their pasts and begin to build trust. Audrey's evening, however, ends in disappointment when John Wheeler receives a telegram and abruptly leaves town. At the sheriff's station, Pete Martell accidentally opens Eckhart's puzzle box, only to reveal yet another locked box inside. Later, the investigation into the disappearance of yet another young man leads Cooper and Truman to a roadie for a rock band. He explains that his friend, Rusty, was lured into the woods by a strange man who looked like Bigfoot. To Cooper, it's clear. Wyndham Earl has captured another pawn, but this time, he's throwing him off the board entirely. Meanwhile, Lucy gives Andy Brennan and Dick Tremaine an ultimatum. In 24 hours, she will choose the father of her baby. At the Great Northern, Benjamin Horne continues his path to redemption, but his attempt to right an old wrong with Eileen Hayward only deepens the rift with Dr. Hayward. The tension is interrupted by the arrival of John Justice Wheeler, who is leaving for Brazil after learning that a business partner has been murdered. He barely gets a chance to say goodbye to Audrey. Back at the sheriff's station, the investigation into Earl takes a darker turn. A drained Major Briggs reveals the Project Blue Book files on Earl, describing him as a brilliant man who became obsessive and violent while studying the mysteries of the Twin Peaks forest. In an old recording, a project researcher talks about evil sorcerers called Dugpuss, who seek power in a real physical place known as the Black Lodge. Cooper realizes the truth. Earl's quest for revenge was just a distraction. His real goal has always been the Black Lodge. Deep in the woods, Earl mocks Cooper's investigation while torturing Leo Johnson with a shock collar. He reveals that Audrey, Donna, and Shelley, the three women he lured to the roadhouse, are his candidates for queen in his deadly game. Elsewhere, Audrey manages to reach Wheeler at the airport just in time for a passionate farewell before his plane takes off. The plot thickens when Earl captures Major Briggs. Under the influence of a truth serum, Briggs confesses his greatest fear, that love may not be enough. More importantly, he reveals how the Black Lodge can be accessed at a specific moment when Jupiter and Saturn align in conjunction, while Catherine and Andrew finally open Eckhart's final puzzle box, only to find yet another box inside. Cooper and Annie grow closer, dancing together at the roadhouse. The night ends with Earl, now in possession of the crucial information, realizing that the Owl Cave painting is not just an invitation, it's a map to the Black Lodge. With the secret of the planetary conjunction revealed, Wyndham Earl deciphers the final key to accessing the Black Lodge: fear. He realizes that the creatures of the lodge are drawn to the energy of terror and plans to use his chosen queen as bait. Meanwhile, Benjamin Horne convinces Audrey to enter the Miss Twin Peaks pageant, arguing that the platform would give her the visibility she needs to fight the Ghostwood Project. At the sheriff's station, Cooper theorizes that the Black Lodge is the source of the evil in the woods, the place Bob comes from, and that the entity feeds on fear, just as it did with Josie Packard at the moment of her death. The team races to decipher the cave painting, and Andy, by accident, connects the symbols to Jupiter and Saturn, confirming that the moment of the conjunction is near. Major Briggs, still in a trance, mutters that fear and love open the doors. Cooper finally understands Earl's plan. The winner of the Miss Twin Peaks pageant will be crowned his queen and taken to the entrance of the lodge. The race against time begins. The night of the Miss Twin Peaks pageant unfolds at the roadhouse. Amid performances and speeches, subplots reach their climax. Lana seduces Judge Dick Tremaine. Donna confronts Benjamin Horne, and he admits he is her father. Lucy finally chooses Andy to be the father of her child. Annie Blackburn's speech about spiritual connection with nature and the importance of preserving both inner and outer beauty wins over the judges. Annie is crowned the new Miss Twin Peaks. At the exact moment of her victory, the lights at the roadhouse go out. Amid the chaos and smoke, Wyndham Earl appears, kidnaps Annie, and vanishes. Panic spreads through the room, but in the middle of the confusion, Andy Brennan rushes to Cooper with a shocking revelation. He's finally understood the cave painting. It's not a puzzle, it's a map. With Andy having deciphered the map, the sheriff's team identifies Earl's destination, Glastonbury Grove, a circle of 12 sycamore trees deep within Ghostwood Forest. The log lady arrives carrying a jar of scorched engine oil, claiming her late husband used to call it an opening to a gateway. When Renette Pulaski smells the oil, she confirms it's the same scent from the night Laura Palmer was killed. The location and the means of entering the Black Lodge are finally revealed. Cooper and Truman rush to the site, but Cooper insists on entering the woods alone. Inside the circle of trees, Cooper discovers a red curtain and steps into the Black Lodge. He finds himself in a surreal waiting room where time and logic no longer apply. There, he encounters the little man, the giant, and visions of Laura and Leland Palmer, who warn him of his doppelganger. Meanwhile, back in the real world, lives in Twin Peaks begin to unravel. Nadine, after a blow to the head, regains her adult memories and personality, shocking both Mike and Ed. Ben Horn's attempt at a confession leads to a violent altercation with Dr. Hayward, who strikes him down in a fit of rage. At the bank, Audrey chains herself to the vault in protest, only to be interrupted by Andrew Packard and Pete Martell, who use a key from Eckhart's box to open a safe deposit box. Inside, they find a bomb. Back in the Black Lodge, Cooper confronts Wyndham Earl, who holds Annie hostage. Earl demands Cooper's soul in exchange for Annie's life. Cooper agrees, but just as the sacrifice is about to occur, Bob appears, turns the tables, seizes Earl's soul, and unleashes Cooper's evil doppelganger. The real Cooper watches helplessly as his double escapes the lodge. Hours later, Truman and Andy find Cooper and Annie unconscious in Glastonbury Grove. At the Great Northern Hotel, Cooper awakens. He walks to the bathroom and smashes his head into the mirror. His reflection is not his own, it's Bob's. In a New York City skyscraper, a security guard named Sam keeps watch over a mysterious glass box. His friend Tracy tries to talk her way inside, but he refuses, insisting the location is classified. Meanwhile, at the Great Northern Hotel, Ben Horn deals with guest complaints as his brother Jerry arrives with a new business venture, legalized cannabis products. At the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Station, a mysterious man asks to speak with Sheriff Truman, only to find out there are two of them, and neither is around at the moment. Elsewhere, in Buckhorn, South Dakota, Cooper's doppelganger, known as Mr. C, arrives at a hideout with his associates Ray and Daria. Back in New York, the original security guard has vanished. Tracy persuades the new guard to let her into the glass box room. As they begin to kiss, the glass box activates. A pale, distorted figure materializes inside, breaks through the glass, and violently attacks the couple. In Buckhorn, the police respond to complaints of a foul odor coming from Ruth Davenport's apartment. After a confusing search for the key, they enter and make a gruesome discovery. Ruth's severed head placed atop an unidentified decapitated man's body. Fingerprints at the scene point to Bill Hastings, the local school principal. Police arrest him at home, much to the shock of his wife, Phyllis. Back in Twin Peaks, Deputy Hawk receives a cryptic call from the log lady. She warns that something connected to Agent Cooper is missing, and that Hawk's heritage is the key to finding it. Meanwhile, in Buckhorn, during his interrogation, Hastings denies ever being at the apartment, though he admits to having dreamt about the scene. The evidence is damning, and police obtain a warrant to search his home. As the police prepare to search Hastings' house, his wife, Phyllis, confronts him in jail. She accuses him of having an affair with Ruth, but he fires back, revealing he knows about her affair with their lawyer, George. Phyllis walks out, her betrayal confirmed. Outside, she meets up with George. Later, back at home, Phyllis is ambushed and shot dead by Cooper's doppelganger, who retrieves George's gun. The doppelganger then calls an associate, Roger, instructing him to hire someone, asserting his dominance and instilling fear. In a tense conversation with Ray and Daria, the doppelganger reveals he's after information held by Hastings' secretary. He also speaks cryptically of an impending event that will leave him isolated, a calculated move to prevent being drawn back into the Black Lodge. Meanwhile, guided by the log lady's advice, Hawk heads to the Glastonbury Grove in Twin Peaks. There, he briefly sees the red curtains of the Black Lodge shimmer into existence. Inside the lodge, the real Agent Cooper encounters a figure resembling Laura Palmer. The one-armed man tells him he can only leave when his doppelganger returns. In a revelation, the one-armed man gives him a cryptic clue, 253. Time and time again, the doppelganger uncovers Daria and Ray's betrayal. They've been hired to kill him. After confronting Daria with a recorded conversation, he kills her. Before doing so, he shows her a mysterious playing card bearing an unusual symbol, claiming this is what he's after. He makes a call to someone he believes is Philip Jeffries, but the conversation is bizarre bar and shrouded in riddles. Afterward, he hires a pair of assassins, Chantal and Hutch, for a new job. The night ends at the Roadhouse, where an older, quieter James Hurley catches the attention of a woman watching him from across the room. The moment evil Cooper had been waiting for was drawing near. Driving at high speed, Cooper's doppelganger begins to feel unwell, struggling to resist the pull of the lodge. Simultaneously, inside the Red Room, the real Cooper is told that it's time, and suddenly falls through space and time. In Las Vegas, a third man, Dougie Jones, feels his arm go numb and has a vision of the Red Room. The doppelganger's plan works. Dougie is pulled into the lodge in his place, disintegrating into a small golden orb. The real Cooper materializes inside Dougie's home, disoriented and nearly speechless. Meanwhile, the doppelganger crashes his car, vomits a dark substance known as garmonbozia, and is found by local authorities. Now inhabiting Dougie's body, Cooper is in a catatonic state, merely echoing the words spoken to him. Jade, a sex worker who had been with Dougie, helps him get dressed and drops him off at the Silver Mustang Casino with a few dollars and his house key. Inside the casino, still dazed, Cooper is guided by visions from the Black Lodge that appear above the slot machines. He begins to hit jackpot after jackpot, raking in a fortune and drawing the attention of everyone around him. Back in Twin Peaks, Hawk continues his search for the clue from the log lady, but comes up empty-handed. Meanwhile, at the FBI, Director Gordon Cole, Albert Rosenfield, and Agent Tammy Preston analyze footage of the New York glass box and review the images of the creature that killed the couple. Their meeting is interrupted by a shouting phone call. Agent Cooper has been found in South Dakota. The team prepares to fly out and interrogate him. At the Silver Mustang Casino, Cooper, now in a catatonic state, ends up earning the nickname Mr. Jackpots as he hits one winning slot machine after another. He can barely speak, merely repeating certain words. An old acquaintance, Bill Shaker, recognizes him as Dougie Jones and assumes he wants to go home, to Lancelot Court. The casino management intercepts him and, to ensure his return, offers a limousine ride. The driver struggles to locate the house, since Dougie can only point at a red door. Upon arrival, he is greeted by his wife, Janie E., who is furious over his 3-day disappearance. Her anger quickly turns to shock when she discovers a suitcase full of cash. Realizing he's hit the jackpot, literally, she sees the money as a way to resolve their mounting debts. Meanwhile, at the FBI, Gordon Cole informs Chief of Staff Denise Bryson that they've located Dale Cooper in a federal prison in South Dakota. After a brief discussion about Agent Tammy Preston and their mutual trust, Gordon prepares to reunite with his old friend. Back in Twin Peaks, the usual calm at the sheriff's station is disrupted by the arrival of Sheriff Frank Truman. The team discusses a recent student overdose at the local school, but their attention shifts when Deputy Hawk shares a message from the log lady. Something vital concerning Agent Cooper is missing, and Hawk holds the key to finding it. Upon hearing Cooper's name, Bobby Briggs reveals that the agent was the last person to see his father, Major Garland Briggs, alive. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Wally Brando, Lucy and Andy's son. With a poetic and eccentric monologue, he pays tribute to Sheriff Harry S. Truman, his godfather, before continuing on his journey. The next morning, Dougie's surreal routine continues, with Janie E. helping him get ready for the day. At the same time, the FBI team learns that the fingerprints on the headless body they're investigating are classified under military secrecy. At the prison, Gordon and Albert finally meet the man who looks like Cooper. However, his demeanor is cold and mechanical. He claims he was working undercover with Philip Jeffries, but his words come off as hollow and rehearsed. Albert is visibly disturbed, and Gordon senses that something is deeply wrong. Outside, Albert confides in Gordon that years ago, Jeffries tricked him into leaking intel that led to an agent's death. They both agree the man in the cell is not the real Cooper. Gordon concludes that they'll need help from someone specific, someone he knows exactly where to find. Meanwhile, Dougie, or rather Cooper, is in danger. The assassins who were previously sent to kill him are staking out his house, frustrated that he's still alive. At the Buckhorn morgue, the autopsy of the decapitated body reveals a gold ring inside the victim's stomach engraved with the words, "To Dougie, with love, Janie E." In Twin Peaks, family tensions surface among the Trumans when Doris, Frank's wife, confronts him at the station about domestic issues and her father's broken-down car. Janie E. drops Dougie off at his job at the insurance company. He wanders through the office in a daze, fixated on a cup of coffee. During a meeting, while an agent named Tony presents a claim case, Dougie, seemingly at random, accuses him of lying. Though spoken in a robotic tone, the accusation catches the attention of his boss, Bushnell Mowens, who instructs Dougie to take home a stack of case files for review. Over in Las Vegas, the management at the Silver Mustang Casino is violently punished by their superiors due to Dougie's unexpected winnings. The manager is fired, and his his replacement is told to keep a close watch on Mr. Jones. At the Double R Diner, Shelley lends money to her daughter Becky, who's caught up in a troubled relationship with Steven. Later, the couple is seen using drugs in their car, with Steven boasting about a job interview that clearly went terribly wrong. Back at the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Station, Hawk continues his search for clues about Cooper, while Dr. Jacoby streams his bizarre online show, promoting his gold-painted shovels, urging followers to dig themselves out of the shit. At the Pentagon, military personnel received the 16th alert of Major Garland Briggs's fingerprints, this time coming from Buckhorn, South Dakota. Back at the prison, Cooper's doppelganger demands his phone call. In a cryptic moment, he manipulates the prison's electronic systems and utters the phrase, "The cow jumped over the moon." An ear-splitting alarm blares and the lights flicker uncontrollably, throwing the guards into chaos. Back to Dougie Jones. He wanders aimlessly through the city until he's picked up by police officers and brought home. There, Janie E. finds the key to a motel room in his pocket, along with a photo of him and Jade together. Her anger is cut short by a phone call from loan sharks threatening Dougie. Cold and composed, she schedules a meeting for the next day to settle the debt. After that, she hands Dougie a stack of work documents and sends him to Sonny Jim's room, where they play for a while. A little later, she calls Dougie downstairs, where he starts doodling childish drawings and stare-like shapes all over the insurance files. Elsewhere in the country, Albert meets Diane, Cooper's former assistant, at a bar, trying to convince her to cooperate with the FBI. Meanwhile, in Twin Peaks, Richard Horn, a violent young man, bullies a drug dealer and drives off in his truck. On the road, he recklessly speeds through a residential area and runs over a young boy crossing the street, killing him instantly in front of his mother. Carl, owner of the trailer park, witnesses the tragedy and has a haunting vision of the child's soul ascending into the sky. The police receive Richard's license plate and launch a manhunt. Back at the insurance office, Bushnell Mullins examines Dougie's scribbles on the documents. To his surprise, he interprets the markings as a brilliant analysis, revealing that Agent Tony has indeed been scamming the company in collusion with the mob. Mullins realizes that Dougie is a man of integrity and decides to protect him. At noon, Janie E. meets the loan sharks in a park. With a powerful speech about the struggles of the middle class, she intimidates them, pays only a fraction of the debt, and tells them to never come back. Back at the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Station, Sheriff Truman's wife, Doris, has another emotional outburst, this time about her father's broken car. Andy and Lucy reveal to a colleague that her behavior drastically changed after the death of her son. At the sheriff's department, Hawk finds missing pages from Laura Palmer's diary, hidden inside a bathroom door. In them, Laura describes a dream in which Annie Blackburn warns her the good Dale is in the lodge and can't leave. Realizing the implications, Frank Truman contacts Dr. Hayward via Skype. The doctor confirms that after leaving the Black Lodge, Cooper behaved strangely and was seen near Audrey Horne's room in the ICU while she was in a coma. Meanwhile, in Buckhorn, South Dakota, Lieutenant Knox from the Pentagon examines a decapitated body. Fingerprints confirm the identity, Major Garland Briggs. However, the corpse belongs to a man in his 40s who died only a few days earlier, not someone in his 70s. In Washington, Gordon Cole and Albert Rosenfield recruit a reluctant Diane, Cooper's former assistant, to visit the doppelganger at the federal prison. During the encounter, Diane confronts him about the last time they saw each other. His reaction deeply unsettles her. As they leave, she confirms the FBI's suspicions. "That's not the Dale Cooper I knew. There's something missing." Back at the prison, the doppelganger uses a coded message to arrange a private meeting with Warden Murphy. He blackmails the warden with compromising information, securing an escape for himself and his accomplice, Raymond Rowe. In Las Vegas, detectives question Dougie Jones at work about his missing car, which was found destroyed in an explosion. Later, outside his home, an assassin known as Ike the Spike attacks Dougie, but a dormant instinct kicks in, and he neutralizes the attacker with snake-like speed, leaving his wife Janie E. in shock. At the Great Northern Hotel, Ben Horn and his assistant Beverly investigate a mysterious humming noise and discover an old room key, room 315, the very one where Cooper was shot years ago. The night ends with the doppelganger and Raymond Rowe escaping the prison in a getaway car. Escaping from prison, Cooper's doppelganger and Raymond Rowe drive down a desolate highway. Ray reveals he has vital information the doppelganger wants but refuses to give it up without payment. He attempts to betray him, and then he shoots the doppelganger, but before he can finish the job, ghosts emerge from the darkness. They surround the doppelganger's body, covering it in blood and appearing to extract from him a sphere containing the face of Bob. Seizing the opportunity, Ray flees and contacts Philip Jeffries, reporting that he saw something strange inside Cooper just before the figures appeared. The narrative then shifts back in time to 1945, during the first atomic bomb test in New Mexico. The detonation tears through the fabric of reality, unleashing a torrent of evil, including the entity known as Bob. In a fortress within another dimension, a benevolent being known as the Fireman, formerly referred to as the Giant, observes the event. In response, he creates a golden orb containing the essence of Laura Palmer and sends it to Earth. The story moves forward to 1956. In the New Mexico desert, a woodsman takes over a radio station, broadcasting a hypnotic message that puts listeners into a deep sleep. This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full and descend. Meanwhile, a bizarre amphibian insect creature hatches from an egg and crawls into the mouth of a sleeping girl, planting a seed of darkness into the world. Back in the present-day timeline, aboard an FBI jet, Gordon Cole receives an urgent call from the Pentagon about Major Briggs's body and reroutes the flight to Buckhorn, South Dakota. Meanwhile, Cooper's doppelganger, wounded but alive, makes his way to a remote farm. He instructs his associates, Hutch and Chantal, to take out the prison warden and then carry out a double-header job in Las Vegas. In Twin Peaks, Bobby, Hawk, and Frank visit Major Briggs's widow. She hands them a metallic cylinder the Major left behind, saying he told her one day they'd come asking about Agent Cooper. Bobby, remembering a childhood game with his father, knows exactly how to open it, by slamming it hard against the ground. Inside, they find cryptic instructions, a location called Jack Rabbit's Palace, 2 dates, a time, and the note, Cooper Cooper. Bobby recognizes the name as a place he made up when he was a kid. At the Buckhorn morgue, the FBI team examines Briggs's body and discovers a wedding ring in his stomach engraved with the message, "To Dougie, with love, Janie E." It's their first solid link between the Briggs case and Dougie Jones. They interrogate paranormal researcher William Hastings, who confesses to helping the Major cross into another dimension. Hastings recounts that just before disappearing, Briggs began to float and repeated the words "Cooper, Cooper" right before his head detached from his body. In Las Vegas, the investigation into Dougie Jones reveals he has no records prior to 1997. Meanwhile, the hitman who attacked him, Ike the Spike, is identified and apprehended. Back at the Great Northern, the mysterious humming sound persists as Ben Horne and Beverly share a moment charged with romantic tension, which she ultimately resists. In Roadhouse, where the weather is more pleasant, 2 young women chat, unaware of the cosmic events unfolding around them. In Twin Peaks, Richard Horne corners Miriam, the schoolteacher who witnessed him running over the young boy. She reveals that not only did she speak to the police, but she also sent a letter to Sheriff Truman, detailing everything and naming Richard as her potential killer. In a fit of rage, Richard brutally attacks her, leaving her for dead inside her trailer. Before fleeing, he calls Chad, the corrupt deputy, and threatens him, ordering him to intercept the letter at all costs. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, the Mitchum brothers watch a news report about the arrest of Ike the Spike for the attempted murder of Douglas Jones. They finally connect the dots. The man who won millions at their casino is the same Dougie Jones from the insurance company that denied their $30 million claim. The coincidence ignites a burning desire for revenge. In the office, Duncan Todd comes up with a plan to get rid of Dougie Jones. He instructs employee Anthony Sinclair to approach the Mitchum brothers and pin the blame for the insurance loss on Dougie, claiming Jones acted out of personal vendetta. The plan is simple: get the Mitchums to take Dougie out for him. Back at the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, Chad successfully intercepts the mail and discreetly pockets Miriam's letter. At the Horne residence, Richard violently assaults his grandmother, Sylvia, and forces her to open the safe, stealing all her money before vanishing. The FBI investigation makes a breakthrough when they discover an encrypted message sent from Diane's phone, proving she's been leaking information. They decide to keep her close to find out who she's working for. The team also receives a shocking image, a photo of Dale Cooper's face, pulled from one of the memory cards recovered at the New York skyscraper crime scene. Back in Las Vegas, Anthony Sinclair completes his mission. He meets with the Mitchum brothers and convinces them that Douglas Jones is solely responsible for their multi-million-dollar loss. Fueled by renewed hatred, the brothers schedule a meeting with Dougie in the desert for the following day, with a clear intention to kill him. In Twin Peaks, the log lady makes a cryptic phone call to Deputy Hawk with a warning about what's to come. Laura is the one. The web of intrigue tightens around Dougie Jones, but in Twin Peaks, a more personal violence is about to erupt. Miriam is found alive by a young boy, but she's in critical condition. News that Steven might be involved in something terrible reaches Becky, who, in a desperate frenzy, steals her mother Shelley's car and races to the trailer where he's living with another woman. She fires several shots at the door, screaming his name. Meanwhile, the FBI team arrives at the location identified by Bill Hastings. Gordon, Albert, and Diane witness a swirling vortex pulsing in the sky. Nearby, they discover the decapitated body of Ruth Davenport. Davenport. A series of coordinates is written on her arm. Suddenly, a shadowy figure, a woodsman, emerges and violently attacks the police car, crushing Hastings' head before vanishing into the woods. Back in Twin Peaks, Bobby Briggs, now a deputy, shows up to de-escalate the situation involving his daughter, Becky. During their conversation, a chaotic traffic jam builds up. A young boy in a nearby car finds a gun and accidentally fires it in the direction of the Double R diner. Panic escalates when a passenger in another vehicle begins vomiting a dark, foul substance, seemingly in the grip of a supernatural episode. At the sheriff's department, Hawk deciphers clues left by Major Briggs. He shows Frank Truman an ancient map, explaining that its symbols point to an event happening in 2 days, involving something called Black Fire and Sick Corn, a harbinger of death. The log lady makes her final call to Hawk, saying her log fears the fire that is coming, and urges him to watch for dreams and for time itself. In Las Vegas, the Mitchum brothers prepare to kill Dougie. However, Bradley had a vivid dream the night before. In the dream, Dougie brought them a box with a cherry pie inside, and the wound Candy had accidentally inflicted on his face was healed. The dream was so striking that Bradley makes Rodney promise not to kill Dougie if he shows up with that very pie. When Dougie arrives at the meeting, he's carrying a cardboard box. Inside, much to the brothers' astonishment, is a cherry pie. He then hands them a check for $30 million, the insurance payout approved by Bushnell Mullins. The Mitchums' anger turns to joy and gratitude. They take Dougie out to dinner, treating him like a hero. Douglas Jones is no longer an enemy, but a friend and a lucky charm. With Dougie now under the unlikely protection of the Mitchum brothers, the FBI investigation enters a new level of secrecy. Gordon Cole officially invites Agent Tammy Preston to join the Blue Rose Task Force. He and Albert then temporarily deputize Diane, meeting her expertise in Cooper-related cases. Diane agrees, sealing the deal with the words, "Let's rock." In Twin Peaks, Sarah Palmer has a disturbing breakdown at a grocery store, frightening the clerks with visions of men approaching. Hawk pays her a visit to check on her well-being, but senses something strange in the house. Sarah brushes him off, saying everything's fine, and shuts the door. Ben Horn receives word from Frank Truman that his grandson Richard killed the boy and attacked Miriam. Racked with guilt, Ben agrees to cover all of Miriam's medical expenses. He hands Frank the key to Cooper's old room at the Great Northern, room 315, which mysteriously arrived in the mail. Tension between Audrey Horn and her husband Charlie reaches a boiling point. Audrey is desperate to find her missing lover Billy and demands that Charlie help. After a bitter argument, Charlie finally calls Tina, the last person believed to have seen Billy. The phone call is one-sided and tense. When he hangs up, Charlie refuses to tell Audrey what he learned, leaving her furious and suspended in dread. Elsewhere, Chantal and Hutch, the hired assassins, arrive at the home of the prison warden who released Cooper's doppelganger. Without hesitation, they execute him in cold blood in front of his young son, then flee. At the roadhouse, a conversation between two girls reveals that a man named Clark is cheating on Angela, who is already emotionally unstable. Their friend Trick bursts in, panicked, saying he was nearly killed by a car speeding the wrong way down the road. His description matches that of Richard Horn. The web of violence and chaos in Twin Peaks continues to spread, with deadly threads drawing ever closer. In Las Vegas, the Mitchum brothers celebrate with Bushnell Mullins, showering him with gifts, cigars, jewelry, and a brand new convertible BMW. Elsewhere, a furious Duncan Todd calls Anthony, giving him one day to deal with Dougie Jones. Back at the Jones household, joy fills the air. Janie E and Sonny Jim discover a brand new playset in the backyard and a shiny new car in the garage. Gifts from the Mitchums. Overwhelmed with emotion, Janie E declares her love for a blank-faced Dougie. Meanwhile, Cooper's doppelganger arrives at a remote farm where Ray Monroe is being held captive by a gang led by a man named Renzo. To win Ray's freedom, Renzo challenges the doppelganger to an arm wrestling match. The contest is tense. The doppelganger toys with Renzo before, in one brutal move, breaking his arm and shooting him dead. Alone with Ray, he interrogates him. Ray confesses he was hired by a man named Philip Jeffries to kill the doppelganger, revealing that he carries something valuable inside him. Ray hands over the Owl Cave ring and a piece of paper with coordinates. In return, the doppelganger executes him. The ring vanishes from Ray's finger and is transported to the Red Room. In Las Vegas, police discover that the fingerprints of Douglas Jones match those of a missing FBI agent. At the same time, a desperate Anthony seeks out corrupt cops to obtain an undetectable poison. The next day at work, Anthony attempts to poison Dougie's coffee, but is overcome with guilt and confesses everything to Bushnell, who reveals he already uncovered the fraud through the bizarre drawings Dougie had made. Anthony agrees to testify against Duncan Todd. At the Double R Diner in Twin Peaks, Norma's business partner Walter pressures her to use cheaper ingredients and rebrand the diner, creating new conflict for her. Elsewhere in town, Nadine, inspired by Dr. Jacoby, visits him and declares she's ready to shovel out the shit. Later that night, a deeply unsettled Audrey Horne argues with her husband Charlie, feeling disconnected from reality and insisting he take her to the roadhouse. The episode ends as James Hurley performs a hauntingly familiar song on stage at the bar. As James's music echoes through the roadhouse, the gears of mystery keep turning. Sheriff Frank Truman calls Gordon Cole at the FBI, informing him about the pages from Laura Palmer's diary that mention two Coopers. Cole, in turn, reveals to Tammy the origin of the Blue Rose cases, detailing an encounter with a tulpa, a manufactured being. The investigation moves forward when Albert and Cole interrogate Diane. Upon seeing the ring found in Major Briggs's stomach, she recognizes it. The inscription, "To Dougie with love, Janie E," prompts her to reveal that her half-sister, Janie E, is married to a man named Douglas Jones in Las Vegas. The connection between the cases is finally established. Cole then shares with Albert a prophetic dream in which Philip Jeffries pointed at Cooper and questioned his identity. Back in Twin Peaks, the corrupt officer Chad is finally arrested. Following Major Briggs's instructions, Hawk, Frank, Bobby, and Andy climb the mountain to a location called Jackrabbit's Palace. At exactly 2:53 p.m., an energy portal opens and pulls Andy inside. There, he meets the giant, now called the Fireman, who shows him crucial visions: the origin of Bob, Laura Palmer, the two Coopers, and Lucy. Andy returns to the real world, with no memory of what transpired, but carrying with him a mysterious, eyeless Asian woman named Nido. He insists she must be protected. They take her to the jail, where Chad and a drunken prisoner stir up chaos. At the Great Northern, security guard Freddy tells James the story of his green glove. The fireman instructed him to wear it, granting him superhuman strength and a mission in Twin Peaks. Night falls darker over Twin Peaks. At the bar, Sarah Palmer is harassed by a trucker. In a horrifying moment, she removes her own face, revealing a dark, grinning void, and tears out the man's throat with a bite. At the roadhouse, two young women talk about Billy, the man Audrey is searching for. One of them recounts seeing him days earlier, bloody and incoherent, after fleeing the home of her mother Tina. As the mystery surrounding Billy deepens, other stories in Twin Peaks reach a turning point. Nadine, transformed by Dr. Amp's philosophy, goes to Ed's gas station and sets him free from their marriage, telling him to be with Norma. Ed rushes to the Double R and finds Norma ending her business partnership with Walter. Determined to keep only the original diner, faced with an emotional Ed, Norma finally accepts his marriage proposal. Elsewhere, doppelganger Cooper locates the hideout of Philip Jeffries, who now exists as a strange, steam-spewing machine. Jeffries denies having ordered the doppelganger's death and gives him a new set of coordinates. Outside, he is confronted by Richard Horne, who reveals himself to be Audrey's son. The doppelganger easily overpowers him and forces him into his truck. A fleeting vision reveals Steven's fate. He dies by suicide in the forest. At the roadhouse, James is attacked by the husband of a woman he was talking to. Freddy steps in and, using his green glove, knocks the attackers out, revealing the glove's true power. In Las Vegas, the Jones family watches the film Sunset Boulevard. The mention of the name Gordon Cole in the movie triggers a reaction in Dougie. He approaches an electrical outlet and sticks a fork into it, suffering a violent electrocution. Back in Twin Peaks, Margaret Lanterman, the log lady, makes one final call to Hawk, offering a last piece of advice before passing away peacefully. The night culminates at the roadhouse. Charlie finally brings Audrey there. The MC announces the Audrey's dance, as she steps onto the stage to recreate her iconic routine. A fight suddenly breaks out in the crowd, and the scene cuts abruptly. Audrey is now in a sterile white room, staring at her reflection in a mirror, shocked, as if waking from a long dream. Later, in the desert, Cooper's doppelganger, known as Mr. C, takes his son, Richard Horne, to a remote location marked by mysterious coordinates. Following Mr. C's orders, Richard climbs onto a large rock and is instantly vaporized by a devastating electrical surge. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, assassins Hutch and Chantal are staking out Dougie Jones's house. Their surveillance takes a violent turn when a neighbor confronts them, leading to a chaotic shootout that ends with both assassins dead and the FBI arriving at the scene. At the hospital, a catatonic Dougie is visited by the Mitchum brothers, who reaffirm their loyalty. As a news segment airs on TV about Dougie's electrocution, a strange energy pulses through the room. Cooper finally awakens from his coma, fully conscious and back in control. In a parallel revelation, Diane confesses to Gordon Cole and Albert that the man who visited her years ago wasn't the real Cooper, but his doppelganger, who assaulted her. The trauma of the memory exposes the truth. Diane is a tulpa, a manufactured duplicate. After sending one final message to Mr. C, she disintegrates. Back at the hospital, Cooper takes charge. He bids farewell to Janie E and Sonny Jim, promising to return return and enlists the Mitchum brothers to fly him to Twin Peaks. Gordon Cole finally confides in Albert, revealing a secret he has kept for 25 years, a plan devised with Cooper and Major Briggs to locate and destroy an ancient malevolent entity known as Judy. The long wait ends when Bushnell Mullins calls with a message from Cooper, confirming he's on his way to the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Station. At that very moment, Cooper's doppelganger is pulled through a vortex and materializes just outside the station, while Deputy Andy Brennan receives a vision from the fireman showing him the past, the present, and the path forward. As the real Cooper steps into the station, the doppelganger also appears inside. Realizing the imposter doesn't recognize his former self, Lucy shoots him. The doppelganger's death releases the malevolent orb that houses Bob. Guided by his vision, Andy brings in Freddy Sykes, the security guard with the green glove. Embracing his destiny, Freddy uses his superhuman strength to smash the orb, destroying Bob once and for all. With the doppelganger banished to the Black Lodge, Cooper prepares for his true mission. He steps through a portal in the basement of the Great Northern Hotel and travels back in time to the night of Laura Palmer's murder. He finds her in the woods and leads her away, seemingly preventing her death and altering the course of history. But as they walk towards safety, Laura suddenly lets out a piercing scream and vanishes into thin air, leaving Cooper alone as the timeline begins to fracture. The timeline shatters. Cooper and Diane now find themselves in an alternate reality, crossing through a mysterious portal in the desert. Their connection grows cold and distant. The next morning, Diane is gone, leaving behind a note addressed to a man named Richard, signed by Linda, names Cooper doesn't seem to recognize. His journey takes him to Odessa, Texas, where he encounters a woman named Carrie Page, the spitting image of an older Laura Palmer, but with no memory of her past life. Cooper finds her living in a house with a corpse on the couch, and desperate to escape, she agrees to go with him. Cooper brings her to Twin Peaks, hoping to reunite her with her mother, Sarah, and restore some semblance of order. But when they arrive at the Palmer house, strangers answer the door, people who have never heard of the family. The story has been completely rewritten. Standing in the darkened street, a disoriented Cooper asks, "What year is this?" At that moment, Carrie hears the ghostly echo of Sarah's voice calling out, "Laura!" Repressed memories flood back, and Carrie releases a final blood-curdling scream, one that cuts the power to the house, plunging everything into darkness.